Hello, I'm Maria V. Snyder. I'm a New York Times bestselling author of 22 novels. I write fantasy and science fiction, and I also have a whole bunch of short stories published. And I'm a real stickler for my fight scenes to be realistic. I have taken Ishinryu karate, earned a brown belt, still waiting on that black belt, but family has interfered with that goal. I also am a teacher. I teach at Seton Hill University's MFA program for writing popular fiction. It's a low residency MFA program, and we have genre classes, and we have classes like this one, fantastic fight scenes. And I teach believable villains and, about emotion and all kinds of fun things. So I've been writing since 2005 when my first novel, Poison Study, was published. It's a fantasy novel, and there's quite a number of fight scenes in the book, which is a lot of fun for me to write. And then the most recent release is The Study of Poisons. Let me see if you can see it better here. It's a companion novel to Poison Study, just came out this year, and it's from the point of view of another character who does quite a bit of fighting as well. So some general information about fight scenes is your fight scene must be part of the story and not just because it's cool. Now I'm going to say there's exceptions to that because there's exceptions to all things in writing. If anybody ever says you must do something this way, you don't. There's always exceptions, always. As long as you can do it right, then that's great. So what's the exception to this? Not because it's cool, is if your story is just for entertainment, like pure entertainment, that you're using kind of silly, over the top kind of stuff, like think of Pirates of the Caribbean, the movie. So, but one of the things you need to remember is violence is one of the most fundamental things that's hardwired into our brains, okay? And what a person or a character is willing to do or not do when it comes to a fight can reveal, change, or confirm aspects of their personality. Because what are you willing to do, in a fight? Like violence, hurting another person is a psychological barrier. There's a lot of people that cannot do it. We've been raised not to harm others. And it's just, even when we're in trouble, some people still cannot do it. So, but just keep that in mind. And also the same elements that make up a good scene, characterization, pacing, tension, emotion, are also required for a fight scene. You need all that stuff in there as well. And we're going to get to that. I'm going to, what I call the Fantastic Four. So some more general information. A good fight scene doesn't have to detail every movement of the fight. I mean, you're not going to be saying every, he punched with his right hand, then he punched with his left hand, and then he blocked with his forearm, and then he did this, and then he stopped there. And that's boring. That's really boring, and it's not necessary. I mean, sure, you want to paint a picture and you want it to be realistic, but you don't need to do every single movement. And we'll get to that. I'll get to some examples. And then your fight scenes can range from more of a gritty realistic to your entertaining fights. So if you're writing something like The Princess Bride or the Pirates of the Caribbean, and go have fun, have them in the rafters, have them making somersaults in the middle of a fight or turning their back on their opponent, that's all good stuff. But if you are writing, say, a police procedural or something that's an urban fantasy, where we're dealing with people who are in alleys and bars and things like that, those fights are really different than those entertaining fights. They are over pretty quickly, and they don't last long, and they're brutal. And the goal is to get your opponent on the ground. So you need to decide what you're doing, and genre will help with that, because some genres just go more towards, the spy thriller type genre has a different kind of fight scenes than like the more fantasy. And then I have this little TV set here because I say don't rely on TV shows and movies for writing fight scenes, because they're unrealistic. I mean, they're good entertainment wise, and sometimes it's good to see how people move and use weapons, but I would say go to YouTube and find somebody who's actually in a knife fight, or showing you knife fight moves or knife defense moves, because that's more realistic. You have a fight scene in your book. So why does this fight matter? What is the purpose of this fight? What are you trying to show? Because every scene needs to have a purpose. Are you trying to show characterization? Are you trying to show what your character will do in order to protect somebody or to stop somebody from causing harm? Like maybe somebody's running off to shoot somebody and they get tackled or something like that. I mean, what is the purpose of the fight? For me, I have my character, she's a little smaller in stature, but still, even with a smaller opponent versus a bigger opponent, with proper self-defense moves, you can break away from a bigger opponent. So, that's one of the things showing that she's not going to give up, even though it's obviously like this guy's is bigger than her. And what does the fight do for the story? Does it advance the plot? Does it show characterization? Does it increase the tension that we know that, somebody might be stalking somebody or after somebody and they have this altercation that's going on? Or is it showing, in a bar, this guy's quick to anger, things like that. So what does your fight do for the story? And why are the characters fighting? You need to know that when you have them fighting. Like one example that I use in my Study of Poisons books, Valak, the main character, is the chief of security. He's in charge of all the security. And he put out a challenge to people. If you could beat me in a fight with any weapon of your choice, then you can become my second in command. Because he wants to find a second in command, but he wants to find somebody who's really good at fighting. And also he likes to challenge himself because he likes to fight and keep his skills sharp. So that's, so why are the characters fighting? In the case, in my book, it was because there was people who are wanting to become his second in command. But I don't detail every single fight when he gets challenged. I might detail the first fight, but then the rest I just say, oh, he faced another challenger and the other challenger picked a knife and, and then go on from there, because nobody wants to read scene after scene after scene of fights. Or maybe they do. I'm sure there's readers out there that like that. And I'm sure there's books out there that are like that. And what do they hope to accomplish? The characters that are fighting, what do they hope to accomplish? In my case with Valak, he's just hoping to find somebody who's really good at fighting that he could, bring into his staff and be part of his team. And then the other side is the people who are challenging him. They're trying to get better, and they're trying to see how good they are against him, because there's no limit. They can fight him as many times as they want. It's not like, oh, once you lose, you're done. You can go back for another couple of years and train and then come back.